Coming up on the County Line, the flu is breaking out on campus. Should students be worried about the H1N1 virus?
And with the annual Fireman's auction right around the corner, we'll give you a sneak peek.
Then catch all your local sports action with Titantown Sports.
We're live.
We're local.
The County Line starts now.
Good evening and welcome to the County Line. I'm Scott Lawrence.
And I'm Jordan Early. The flu continues to plague the Westminster campus, with 4 more students being sent home this week with influenza. The 10 confirmed cases of the H1N1 virus on campus, including a faculty member, the health center will continue to keep the campus updated as it receives additional information.
The health center reminds students to take extra health precautions during this campus-wide scare. Students should continue washing their hands, making sure to avoid touching their eyes, nose, and mouth, as well as getting plenty of rest and staying hydrated. Students feeling ill should contact the health center immediately.
H1N1 has been affecting colleges and universities across the country and has hit Westminster College right here in New Wilmington. Earlier this week, I talked to the health center about precautions students should be taking, as well as 2 students who tested positive for the virus, also known as swine flu. H1N1 has officially hit Westminster College in New Wilmington, Pennsylvania. Within the past 2 weeks, tests on 55 students have resulted in 12 positives for the virus, also known as swine flu. Dr. Shore, who treats students at Westminster College, says there are common symptoms to look for when it comes to the H1N1 virus.
Fevers are typically pretty high, usually 101 or higher, and just typical congestion, cold symptoms, stuffy nose, maybe a little bit of a cough with it. So not much different than a cold or the regular flu, except that it's a lot faster that it hits, and also the fever is pretty quick and pretty high.
With students living in close proximity in dorm rooms, the college is taking all necessary precautions to keep the spread of the flu under control.
They've put masks to help limit exposure in the dorms, and also a number of different hand washing soaps as well, antibacterial soaps.
Sophomore soccer player Michael Dever was the first student to test positive.
First symptoms I had were a cough and being achy all over.
And what should you do if you're worried you have the virus? Nurse Judy Duda at the health center gives this advice.
So while people shouldn't panic, they should still pay attention to the symptoms, and if they have the symptoms, seek treatment and stay away from people until they're well.
However, one thing there is no antidote for are the hours of boredom and isolation for the sufferer, as senior Ben Ports told me earlier.
So they said, well, you're going to have to go in this back room, the isolation room, until your parents can come get you. So basically I went back there with 2 other people that had the flu, and we just kind of talked about what our different symptoms were of the flu, and just kind of stared at each other for a good couple hours. It was pretty miserable, yeah.
The good news for those who have tested positive is that you can only catch the virus once. The bad news is that doctors are predicting a surge in cases this coming winter. Jordan Early reporting for the County Line.
200 Grove City plant workers are out of a job as GE Transportation continues its cuts in northwestern Pennsylvania. The layoffs for GE's local engine plant is being blamed on the sluggish economy. A spokesperson for GE says employees losing their jobs will receive a week's pay for every year of service, as well as health care for 1 year.
The unemployment rate in Lawrence County is about 10%. With the pending status of the Valley View Downs project, County Commissioner Dan Vogler says that he is optimistic that the construction of the racetrack and casino will significantly boost employment in Lawrence County. Should the project pass, Vogler expects Valley View Downs to quickly become Lawrence County's 2nd largest employer behind Jameson Hospital.
The unemployment rate in Lawrence County right now is about 10%, 9-10%, which is certainly not good. What is so significant about this project is that if it comes to fruition, Valley View Downs will become the second largest employer in Lawrence County next to Jamison Health System. And they would begin with about 1,200 construction jobs, and then once the building is complete, they would then employ about 1,000 people. So the economic impact would be very significant for not only Lawrence County, but all of western Pennsylvania and eastern Ohio.
Yeah.
Government employees working for Lawrence County could end up being furloughed for a dozen days to help stretch a strained budget. Lawrence County commissions are asking employees to take the furlough days because the county doesn't have the money to pay them. The state's budget battles is partly to blame for the county's own budget shortfall. County commissioners expect to vote on the furlough plan during the September 22nd commissioners meeting.
Stay tuned for more of this week's County Line as we take a look at this year's Fireman's auction.
Also, we'll head down to Mines and Meadows in this week's On the Road.
And more County Line is on the way.
Pennsylvanians are killed each year trespassing at mines and quarries. I'm Kathleen McGinty, Secretary of Environmental Protection. Riding old mine sites and diving in abandoned quarries may look like fun, but those joyrides are suicide missions, and that diving is about dying. Emergency responders risk their lives on dangerous search and rescue missions. Mines and quarries are not playgrounds. They can kill you. Stay out and stay alive.
The New Wilmington Volunteer Firemen are gearing up for their annual flea market and auction to be held next week. From Christmas decorations to knickknacks and board games of all kinds, the flea market is a great place to find all sorts of treasures. This year's auction chairman Jake Huffman is the youngest chairman to ever plan the annual fundraising event. Huffman says that the plans for this year's auction are well underway and the firemen are ready for next Saturday.
Everything is set for the day of the auction. We need a little bit of help, but everything's going good in the fire hall. We got a lot of stuff, a lot of help. The auction day is September 26th, which is next week. The flea market starts at 9, ends at 3. The auction starts at 5 and ends at midnight if we don't run out of stuff before then.
One local shop owner is doing business with another goal in mind, helping others. The County Line's Kylie Bennett takes a look at how the Silk Road is a great place to do your shopping.
I began to be exposed with fair trade and saw what it's doing for people around the world and how it actually lifts them up and out of poverty. And that got me kind of excited. So I ended up quitting my job and opening a store so that I could actually be part of the solution rather than part of the problem. The Silk Road is actually one of the oldest trading routes in history, and it was the longest trading route ever in existence. It ran from eastern China into the tip of Africa and into southern Europe. And they credit it not only with having a lot of trade going back and forth, but also a lot of ideas. So engineering ideas were being shared, and religion was being shared, and cultural things were being shared. And that's what I want to do here. It's not just a matter of helping people, it's also a matter of understanding. You know, how do they live in Africa? What's important to them? You know, what are they wearing in Guatemala? Because some of the purses here actually are made from Guatemalan dresses. So it's a twofold thing. I want to help people, but at the same time, I think we need to understand their culture to truly be able to help them. And it's just so neat to see what they're doing and to see the creative ideas they have. And you know, we've talked before about the purses made out of the yellow pages and recycling clothing and using seeds and Coke cans and tea bags. And it's just so neat to look through and see what they're doing.
Everything here is something that you couldn't buy in a department store, and it's all one of a kind, which is really fun, because no one else will have what I'm wearing.
The items come from all over the world. Actually, there's a map on the other side of this doorway that will show you a pin for every country that I've had represented. I'm always trying to find new countries. But it's mostly developing nations. It's mostly people who are literally living on $1 a day or $200 a year. Like in Guatemala, the average artisan lives on $200 a year. It's amazing how little actually makes a huge difference. You know, one bracelet is $5, which if you do the math, you know, $5 if you're only making $200 a year is huge. It's absolutely huge. There's a cooperative in Ghana where they're starting businesses. They're giving them microloans so that they can start their own businesses. And what's happening is they are then hiring other people who are hiring other people. They're taking their sisters' kids in to get them to school. And it's making a huge... When I started, I've been doing this for about 2.5 years. And when I started, they were making about 4 times the minimum wage level in Ghana. It's been 2 years more, and they're now making 10 times. I love the shopping, and I love knowing that I'm helping. That's the really cool part, because as you continue buying, you start getting the stories of, you know, exact people that it's helping, and it feels really good. It's really nice.
In these tough economic times, it's hard to own your own business, but local entrepreneur Greg Rhodes isn't whining. Rhodes owns and operates the Valant Mill Winery and invites us in to take a closer look at this local attraction located right in our own backyard.
Try that apple. I started making wine as a 15-year-old kid in my high school principal's basement. That's 49 years this fall. If I live one more year, I'll have 50 years at this. Been a lot of fun. We have about 25 different kinds of wine on the board. Everything on that board I have grown except for cranberries. I strictly make the wine, pick the grapes, see to it the vineyards are done, crush them, press them, ferment them, see to it's ready to put in the bottle. Another one here on the board there that is called Edelweiss. It is the next one down from Wellington White. That is a German Rhine wine that I am the only commercial grower of in this entire part of the United States. There's nobody else grows that wine this side of the state of Nebraska. Wow. The Amish Dutch girls do all my pruning, planting, and picking. They are very good workers. They get paid well. They look forward to it because they're making excellent money at it. And then we do everything else from the crushing. And the oldest son physically runs this. He's the one in charge of all this out here. He takes care of all this. My authority ends at those swinging doors. I strictly make the wine.
Interesting, because anytime in a family business you have disputes, and the real problem you have is getting away from the business and having a general discussion on anything else. Always makes an impression when somebody calls, says they know him or been here. Yeah, they always know who he was. Yeah. Well, he's in the vineyard, but we have a lot of labor. He doesn't so much do the labor part of it anymore. He manages a little bit more of what we're doing.
Well, my oldest son and I have this one, and friends and I had the first one, and the oldest son and I have now gone down here to Seven Fields, to open another outlet down there. So, yes, the families are in the business.
For more County Line, including this week's On the Road.
And we'll have all your Hounds highlights in this week's Titan Town Sports.
More County Line is on the way.
Smoke it before you give it a try. Only you. Don't play with matches. Don't play with fire. Cause there's nothing very funny, nothing very nice on a holy spot. So the gorgeous forces, what you decide. Don't play with matches. Don't play with fire. Only you can prevent forest fires. Fire.
This week's On the Road takes us off the road.
Mines and Meadows not only offers trail riding for ATVs, but takes you underground as well.
The County Line's David Nicholson shows us how the sport is for all ages.
Dave Nicholson reporting at Beaver Run in Wampum, Pennsylvania, 4 on the road.
Beaver Run Gymkhana, our newest event here at Beaver Run, head-to-head competition combining autocross, drifting. We do our own. We have a series of 14 races that we hold here throughout the summer, as well as 3 national and regional races.
Usually a couple of days. We have regular rentals, come out, have fun. We have some buddies come out and race with them. We have our own racing series up here, Beaver Run, karting series, and get usually a good crowd, but get some carts that get up to about 75 front stretch. We have a few people that race karts come out here and say this is one of the nicest kart racing tracks they've seen around the country.
Beaver Run Motorsports Complex, it's all asphalt. You race your automobile, you race your crotch rocket, you race a go-kart. If you want to race a go-kart, you can race go-karts.
I'm Dave Nicholson reporting at Beaver Run, 4 on the road.
Remember, if there's ever an emergency, we meet here at the bottom of the driveway.
And I'll get the emergency disaster kit out of the kitchen.
Once we're all together, then we'll decide what to do.
But what about Fido?
What about Fido? The Lawrence County Humane Society reminds you to include your pets in your disaster planning. Make sure that your pets have identification tags that include your phone number. To find out more about how to protect your pets in a disaster, contact the Lawrence County Humane Society.
Good evening, sports fans, and welcome to this week's edition of Titantown Sports. I'm Matt Ogden. The Wilmington Greyhounds, defending District 10 and PIAA champions, kicked off their conference schedule this past Friday as they traveled to Greensville to take on the Trojans. Titantown Sports reporter Ryan Hitchcock has more.
Welcome to the very first 2009 season Greyhounds Roundup. I'm Ryan Hitchcock, and this week the Hounds go away to play their second game against Greenville, where they will face off against the Titans. The Hounds are extremely excited after their first win, which was 43-0, and hopefully it doesn't get to their heads so they can pull it together and win another game for their season and do the same thing they did last year and go all the way. And here's the kickoff for the game. Derek Burns runs it down the field but gets stopped. Another play to Burns, but he's on the outside and he gets pushed out of bounds. One more try to Burns on the outside, and he could go all the way into the end zone for a touchdown. Unfortunately, not too far after that, Jake DeMeadle tried to catch a punt return, but the ball bounces and he's caught in the end zone for a safety. The Hounds are up 7-2 in the first quarter. Titans try to get a good drive going, but are stopped by the Hounds, which puts an end to the first quarter. Jake DeMeadle hands the ball off to Whiting as he finds a hole to come up with some serious yardage. Now DeMeadle guns it straight over to Palladino for another complete pass, getting the Hounds even closer to the goal so Burns can run it in for a touchdown. Greenville tries to get the ball for a punt return, but fumbles it in the end zone, and the Hounds manage to come up with the ball for another touchdown. And shortly after that, Derek Burns finds an opening to run the ball down for another touchdown. Greenville gets close enough to leap into the end zone for a touchdown. They try to go for a two-point conversion, but are shot down by the Hounds defense. Greenville does get another chance to put some points on the board as R.J. Nelson reaches into the end zone to narrow the gap in the score. But the Hounds aren't done yet as Derek Burns bursts through the Greenville defensive line to run the ball down the field and into the end zone, making the final score of the game 15-36. Hounds with the win. Be sure to tune into next week's edition of the Greyhounds Roundup as the Hounds face off against Grove City in Wilmington. I'm Ryan Hitchcock for the Greyhounds Roundup.
Wilmington's second win overall puts the Hounds at 1-0 in the conference. They mix it up a bit this week as they battle non-conference rivals Grove City Golden Eagles, stated before. Kickoff is set 7:30 on Saturday. You can catch all the action right here at our sister station, Titan Radio, Digital 88.9 FM. Westminster Titans were on the road for the first time this season as they traveled to Allegheny College this past Saturday evening for their second night game in 2 seasons. The Titans were looking to even out their non-conference record at 1-1, but the Gators had something else in mind. Titans had trouble keeping up in the first half, going into the locker room down 21-0 at half. The Titans came out firing on all cylinders in the second half after putting Sean Lehockey in for a majority of the second half snaps. Lehockey put up 14 points and was 13 of 28 through the air for a career high of 161 yards, a touchdown and 1 interception. He also rushed 8 times for 35 yards and a TD. But the early deficit proved to be too much for the sophomore quarterback as the Titans dropped their second straight this season, 27-14. Titans look to kick off their conference schedule a bit better than their non-conference one as they travel to St. Vincent to take on third-year PAC participants, Bearcats. Kickoff is set for 1:30 Saturday afternoon. Looking past the Westminster football team, other Titan athletics were in action this past week. The men and women's soccer teams are beginning to get on a roll as they both won their games earlier this week. The men's team made easy work out of Pitt Greensburg by a count of 5-1, putting them at 5-2 overall thus far this season. The women's team won their 4th straight this past Tuesday afternoon as they snuck past John Carroll 2-1, leaving them at 4-2. The men's team is set to host Case Western Reserve Saturday afternoon, with the women looking to extend that streak to 5 as they take on Juniata College Saturday afternoon as well. The women's tennis team has yet to find a worthy opponent and has even traveled outside their division. They faced Division II Clarion University earlier this week and clipped the Golden Eagles by a count of 7 matches to 2, putting the women Titans at 5-0 thus far this season. They are set to open up conference play Saturday morning as they travel to Washington and Jefferson College. The women's volleyball team has had a rough beginning of the season, but began conference play perfect as they blanked the Waynesburg Yellow Jackets 3-0. Starting them off 1-0 in the conference, the team will drive down to Pittsburgh for a set of games this weekend at Carnegie Mellon University. And finally, the men and women's cross-country teams are back in action after their 2-week layoff as they scoot on over to Penn State Barron Invitational on Saturday. One of Westminster's more dominant teams, the Titans swimming team, is currently in off-season preparation for their spring semester schedule, and they're looking to add on to their team. The past year, the Titans swimming coaching staff, including head coach Steve Clement, decided to add another aspect to their team.
We have about 9 students on campus who are interested in coming out for the team. So there's a big mixture of ability in those 9 students. We have some extremely experienced divers who did very well in high school diving. And we have some inexperienced people as well, and we're looking forward to teaching them the proper techniques for competitive diving, and I'm sure they're going to be able to help us out.
Moving the focus back to in-sport teams, both the men's and the women's soccer teams work very hard in preparation for a chance to grasp the PAC championship, and for the same coach. Girish Shakar has been on the Westminster College soccer coaching staff for 12 years now, taking over the head coaching duties for both the men and the women's teams 7 years ago. Takar has an overall record of 129 wins, 82 losses, and 13 ties, with a total of 8 NCAA championship playoff appearances between both the teams. Takar's passion in soccer is prevalent both on and off the field and shows through both himself and his players. Titantown sports reporter Adam Plyler has more on this Titan soccer coach.
I was born in Africa. I lived in a country called Malawi. Then I went to England with my parents, where we immigrated from Malawi and spent about 10 or 11 years in England. And then I've been here since 1986. You know, I started coaching when I was about 14 years old with my youth team. I coached like a youth 10, under 10 team. I loved coaching. I loved being a player. As a player, I loved being a player, but coaching was something that's always interested me. And so I started coaching at a very young age, and then I kind of continued from that through my high school years and my college years, where I'd work in the community with local kids.
Girish knows his soccer, and he's a great coach, one of the greatest coaches I've ever had in any sport.
I think that Girish deserves every piece of success he's ever gotten. He works very hard. He has a family, and he has a full-time job with the soccer team. He loves soccer. I don't know anyone that loves soccer more than Girish does.
Girish loves eating, so he picks the best restaurants.
Whenever we went to Florida, on the way back, we made a random stop at Myrtle Beach and ate at a seafood, all-you-can-eat seafood restaurant. That was a fun memory of Girish.
Well, with the little time I have, I do spend a little time with my kids, my children, and they play soccer. So it's, you know, anytime I'm not here, it's, you know, I'm coaching my young daughter's under 9 team or my son's under 14 team. I like to read a lot. I'm an avid reader. I like to travel, and so I try to spend as much time as I can in the spare time to go out there and visit and travel places. I have a lot of family in various different countries around the world, so we try to do as much as we can to visit them. But it's...
This week's SAC Athlete of the Week is junior forward Danielle Struble. Struble is a junior from Kerwinsville who scored one and assisted another game-winning goal, both in overtime. In 2 of the past 3 games, helping the Titans climb out of the loss column, improving them to 4-2 for the season. She was also named PAC Women's Soccer Offensive Player of the Week. Congratulations, Danielle. Moving on to extra innings, looking at the pro teams, the Pirates were swept this past week by Manny Ramirez and the Los Angeles Dodgers out on the West Coast, putting them at 55-89 for the season. Pirates take on the San Diego Padres at PNC Park tomorrow evening. Cleveland Indians also look to end their 4-game skid as they travel to Oakland and take on the Athletics. Moving over to the NFL, the Steelers look to continue their winning ways after squeaking by the Tennessee Titans in overtime. They're on the road to take on interception king Jay Cutler and the ailing Bears defense, who's down linebacker, including 2 linebackers, including perennial Pro Bowler Brian Urlacher, out for the season with a dislocated wrist. Kickoff is set for 4:15 Sunday afternoon. And the Cleveland Browns are in action on Sunday also at 4:15, taking on the Denver Broncos. That's all the sports for tonight. Thanks for tuning in, and stay tuned for more WCN.
If you missed last night's Band Festival, you can watch the entire Band Festival right here on the Westminster Cable Network, following tonight's county line.
Good night.
Thank you for tuning in.
You've got to get a few chill.
Yeah, absolutely.
Standing ovation by this crowd here this evening. Well deserved.